Okay, this is part 2 of the review. So far what we have done is we have our NAT set up, so we have connection between our two sites. We have all DCs set up on both sides. DC 5 is the child, it's on the west. DC 6 is the new tree, it's on the west. DC 1 and 2 are parent on the west. DC 3 and 4 are parent on the east side. I'm going to connect to DC 1. I have full replication last time I was here. I can see DC 1, DC 5, DC 6 as bridgehead servers. I can see DC 3 as a bridgehead server on the other side. So everything should be fully replicated. Guys, I just want to check my hard disk space. I'm going to start moving a couple of these disks over so I don't run out of hard disk space. And that's an easy choice. Just the hard disk, just the differencing disk, not the parent disk. I'm going to do the same thing to NAT 2. Okay, while those are moving, I'm going to start configuring my two DFS servers. If I look on our map, DFS1 is 0.6. One 172.16.0.6. We are /21. The gateway on the west side is 0.1, and the two DNS servers on the west side are 2 and 3. Again, guys, this will be on the recording. Change my name and join it to the domain. I'm going to jump over and do that to DFS2. DFS1 is on the west side, DFS2 is on the east side. DFS is site aware, so clients on the west side will automatically connect to DFS1, and clients on the east side will automatically connect to DFS2. Again, look at the map. My IP for DFS2 is 172.16.8.4. The gateway on the east side is 8.1. The two DNS servers on the east side are 8.2 and 8.3. rename and join to the domain. I'm going to sign into DFS1. Just to make my life easy, I'm going to add both servers to this one console. I'm waiting. I'm going to sign into DFS2. Actually, also while I'm waiting, I'm going to move the child domain and the tree domain, the hard disk, I'm going to move to the second hard disk. The second hard disk is a mechanical disk. It's slower than the one we normally work with. But that machine is fully set up, so I'm happy with moving that. I don't have a lot of servers, so I'm just hitting find now. Why isn't this working? Why don't I see DFS2? Because it's probably not replicated over yet. So I'm just going to go by name. Again, that's not even replicated. So while I'm waiting for replication to occur, I'm just going to install the software. Because remember, when I added DFS2, it's on the east side, so it probably talked to those DCs on the east side. So I'm going to do file and storage services, DFS namespace, and replication on DFS1, and do the same thing on DFS2. Want to see if replication has occurred yet? Still no. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to create a user account, because the whole purpose of having you use DFS is to test group nesting. So I'm going to create a user account on every domain: the parent domain, the child domain, and the tree domain. So I'm going to start with the parent domain. I'm going to create a user 1, U1. I'm going to create a global group to put that user in. Parent global group. I'm going to do the same thing for the child domain. I'm going to sign in as a child domain user. I'm going to sign into my tree domain too. So I'm going to create a new user account and a new global group in the child domain. The goal is to be able to get everyone from all domains to be able to access the DFS. Put users in global groups in domain local groups, then grant access to the domain local group. User 2, U2. Going to create a new global group for the child domain, child global group. I'm just making it really obvious with the name. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the tree domain. I'm going to create a new group, tree global group. Guys, again, the fact that it's a tree or a child domain is no bearing. I'm just giving it a name just so we know that's a global group from our tree domain. And basically what's going to happen here is we're going to put users into this group. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to put user 3 in the tree global group. I'm going to go back to the child domain. I'm going to put user 2. I'm going to put user 2 in child global group. And on the parent domain, I'm going to put user 1 in the global group. Parent global group. Now the resource I want to share is in the parent domain. So that's where I'm going to make my domain local group. The resource I want to share is my DFS. Parent domain local group. Now I'm going to, where did that group go to? Right here. I'm going to go to properties, and under members, I'm going to add the 3 global groups, 1 from each domain. Parent global group. Now I'm going to change location. So I want to go into the child to look for the child global group. Child global group. And then I'm going to switch over to my tree, new tree, and do tree global. Click OK. Now when I give permissions, I'm going to grant permissions to this group here. So any users in those global groups would have those permissions then. So let's go back to our DFS and see if replication has occurred. Still not. Okay, guys, I'm just going to wait. To keep the video linear, do you want me to literally pause the video, or do you want me to start configuring the IP addresses for DHCP or stuff? I can pause the video, we can take a break for a few minutes and let replication happen. That way, I think it'll be less confusing if I keep it linear. Okay, I'm going to pause. Okay, replication has occurred. I'm going to go to DFS1. I'm going to go to Manage, Add Servers. I'm going to add DFS 1 and 2. I know adding 1 is redundant because 1's already there. That's fine. And then I'm going to make a group called DFS Servers and add both of them there as well. All that's going to do is create an entry on the side so I can click here and see if there's any issues with any of my DFS servers. So now that that's done, I'm going to configure my DFS share. I'm going to call it public. So I'm going to put in my first server, DFS 1. I'm going to call it public. Make it a domain DFS. So there's replication. Then create. Going to highlight the share. Then I'm going to add a new namespace server. DFS 2. So here's my namespace. I have two namespace servers. These servers are going to hold the links. So now I'm going to add a target. I'm going to call it DFS. No, I'm going to call it profiles. No, I'll just make it redirect. I don't know, what do I want to do? We did roaming profiles last semester, right? Last class. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to do profiles for a lack of imagination. So CS01, DFS1, profiles. That's, you don't need three levels for a UMC path. Just need two. So that's kind of wrong. The local path on the server will be C shares profiles. Everyone will get full share permissions. So we turn share permissions off. I'm going to do it again for the other server. The local path will be shares profiles. Turn off the share permissions. So when someone clicks on this link, profiles, it's going to take them to one of these two servers. Then it's going to prompt me to set up replication. All I'm doing is just choosing one primary. In reality, I would choose the server that actually had data. Right now they're both blank, so it doesn't matter who's the primary. That's just for the initial replication, not from that point on. Okay, so my DFS is set up. Now I'm going to go to File and Storage Services, click on Shares. Now find one of the profile shares. I'm going to choose this one because that's where I chose my initial replication from. I'm going to go to Properties, customize the permissions, remove the two users, and add my domain local group. Parent domain local group. Give them modifier rights. So my users are in global groups. My global group is nested in the domain local group, and my domain local group is granted modified access to this resource. Click OK. OK, group nesting is done. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is our relay agent. So right now, we're going to have a DHCP server on one side. If we had any clients on this side, they wouldn't be able to talk to the DHCP server. So we're going to set up the DHCP server here, set up a relay agent on NAT1, so if any clients over here request an IP address, it'll send them over to that DHCP server. This was part of the last class, but I didn't really have the infrastructure on that lab to set it up. So again, IP address is 172.16.8.7. bits. 8.1 is my gateway. My two local DNS servers are 8.2 and 8.3. change my name and join it to the domain. Make sure you sign in as a domain admin when it comes back up. Guys, while we're waiting for that to come up, there's another thing you could do with the DFS is we can create a GPO that shares that to all machines. That mount that DFS share to a drive letter. So I'm going to create a group policy. Say new mapped network drives. Edit it. It's a user setting, not a computer setting. Make sure you choose create. We're going to put in our DFS share. CS, I'm thinking of our work school domain. Contoso.com public profiles. Give it a label of profiles, so that's the only thing they see. Give it a drive letter of P. Doesn't really matter. Click OK. So now we have this policy that's going to map a drive letter called P to all of our machines. So we're going to link it to our parent domain. I'm going to show all domains. Go to my child domain, link it there as well. Then go to our tree domain and link it there as well. Again, you have to change to the parent domain to see the GPO. If you do a GP update, force, you shouldn't have to log out. So all of them should have that P drive now. Back to our DHCP. I'm going to install DHCP. complete the DHCP configuration, meaning create 2 security groups, and authorize the server to pass out IPs. If you're not signed in as a domain admin, you're going to get horrible results. So don't do this unless it looks like this. If it says something like local machine, log out, log back in before you can go with this step. If you log back in, if you have to log out, it'll still be here. Don't worry about it. It'll still be here under the flag. I'm having a replication issue. I'm not worried about it. It'll catch up. Now I'm going to configure my DHCP server. I'm just going to restart it. Just all task, restart. Guys, a few of us had this issue. I don't know what it is with 2019. It is what it is. So I'm going to create a new scope for the west side. 172.16.0.0/21. 172.16.0.1 through 172.16. What are we incrementing by? We're incrementing by 8s, right? 254/21. I want to exclude the first 100. I'll pass them out. We'll be using those for servers. My router on the west side is 0.1. These are not appropriate for the west side, so I'm just going to make a change. Those are the east side's DNS server. The reason why they popped up is because I'm actually on a server that's on the east side. If you want, you can change the order up or down, which is the preferred DHCP server, which is the preferred DNS server. Activate the scope. Just hit refresh to get rid of the blue. Now I'm going to do a new scope for the west side. East side rather. 172.16.8.0/21. 172.16.8.1 through 172.16.15.254. Incrementing by 8s in the third octet. /21. Guys, if you make a mistake here, the only solution is to delete that scope and start again. Because this is the only item we can't change after the fact. Once we create the scope, you cannot change the subnet. The subnet mask rather. So be very careful with that. Again, we're going to exclude the first 100. You can exchange your range, you can exchange any of the options, but you cannot change the subnet mask. These are appropriate for the west side, or the east side rather. I'm just going to show you what I was talking about. So if I right click a scope and go to properties, I can change all of this. No problem. But the subnet mask is grayed out. You can't make a change to that. I can change this, the range, the exclusion, any of the options, but you can't change the subnet mask. Okay, our DHCP server set up. Now I'm going to go back to NAT1 and set up the real agent. NAT1 is not joined to the domain. It shouldn't be because it touches the internet. Going to go to routing and remote access. Guys, we did this, I guess, in the last video. I guess it's already configured. So I'm going to listen on the west side. And if I hear a request for DHCP settings, I'm going to send it to 8.7. That's the IP of my DHCP server. Okay, our last thing is certificate server. And I'm going to use the website to test the certificate server. I'm going to pause the video while those are booting. Okay, my CA and my web server are booted now. The IP of my CA will be 0.7. It's very important that you don't configure or don't install the CA software until your computer is joined to the domain and renamed. If you installed the CA software and you try to rename it, it's just going to block you. You have to uninstall it to rename or join the domain. Incidentally, I can see my DHCP server is working because look, it gave an IP address automatically. And I'm over on the west side. But this is a server, you don't want to use automatic IPs. 0.7. The other thing is, guys, just be careful when you don't go on autopilot and forget to update your subnet mask. Rename it, join it to the domain, and then install the software. Signing in with domain credentials. Now I'm going to install Active Directory certificate services. The name and domain settings of this computer cannot be changed after a certificate authority has been installed. Doesn't even have to be configured. If it's installed, you can't change the name. We don't need this one because we're not creating certificates for routers and switches and things like that. Now in the lab, I had you create a bunch of templates. I'm only going to create 2 templates. One for our OCSP and one for the web server. While that's installing, I'm going to configure my web server. The IP will be 8.5. Incidentally, if you see this, contoso.com, that tells me my DHCP server is working properly on the east side as well. My 2 DNS servers on the east side is 172.16.8.2 and 8.3. Rename, join it to the domain. Come back to my CA. Now I'm ready to configure the CA. It's done installing. We have to go through the wizard twice. If you try to click that one, you get an error message. We have to do that the second time through. Click next, next. Not making any changes. On this one, I don't have a certificate yet, so I can't choose a certificate. We'll fix this on the second time through the wizard. So I'm going to choose this and do the certificate later. And at the end of this, it's going to ask me to do the wizard a second time. Yes, I want to go through and configure the last role. Choose the one we didn't choose before. I'm just going to use the built-in identity for the starting the service. I'm going to choose my certificate because I now have one. Okay, so my CA is up and running. I'm going to create some custom templates. The first one is for a web server. I'm going to duplicate it. Give it a name of Contoso. Publish it in Active Directory. And in reality, I would add my web servers here. But for right now, I'm just going to do auto enroll for authenticated users. This is a server type certificate, so I don't need to go to the subject name field. If this was a user type certificate, I would have to unselect anything that referenced email addresses because my schema doesn't have an email address. The other one I'm going to customize is the OCSP for my online responder. Under general, I'm going to give it a name. Contoso, publish in Active Directory. Under security, the only machine that should get this certificate is my CA. That's going to be my online responder. So I'm going to click Add. Object type is a computer account. Type CS01CA. $. Give it read, enroll, and auto enroll. Did I check enroll for the other one? I don't think I did. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to double check this one. Authenticated users should enroll and auto enroll. In reality, I should just put my web servers here. Guys, just to keep it simple, I'm only going to offer those two certificates. I'm going to right click, go to New, Certificate Templates to Issue, and I'm going to choose my two certificates. Contoso OCSP and Contoso Web Server. No one knows about this group policy yet. No one knows about this CA. So I need to inform all my domain members that there's a CA out there. That's where you go to get certificates, and you need to trust it. So I'm going to go to DC1 and create a group policy to tell everyone about my CA. In my parent domain, go to Group Policy Objects. I'm just going to call it Certificates. I'm going to edit it. Policy, Windows Settings. No, Computer Configuration, Policy, Windows Settings, Security Settings, Public Key Policies. You've got to configure these three. Enable, define, enable. We're going to renew and updates as well. Update the certificate if the template changes. Now that was for computer accounts. We're going to do the same thing for your user accounts. User, policy, Windows settings, security settings, public key policy. You need to configure these. Slightly different. Enable. Renew and update. So once you have the GPO set up, link it to all your domains. So I'm going to link it to the parent domain. I'm going to link it to the child domain. I'm going to link it to my new tree domain. I keep having to go back to Contoso because that's where the GPO is. I'm going to do a GP update on my parent DC and on my CA. GP update for us, and do the same thing on the CA. Okay, the last thing we need to configure for our CA is our online responder. I'm going to highlight revocation configuration, add revocation configuration. I'm just going to put in my corporate name. I'm going to use an existing enterprise CA to grab a certificate. Now this is going to be all the certificates that I've revoked before the expiration time. When I send out that list, I need to sign it. So I need a certificate to sign that revocation list. So I'm going to browse for my CA, grab a certificate from that CA. It's automatically there. I already got it. It's working. So the last step is set up a web server, grab a certificate, and the test is done. Before I stop recording, guys, remind me to put the scripts on for the user accounts again. Guys, I already joined this through the domain, so I'm just going to sign in as a domain user. Okay, I'm going to install the web server. And again, guys, you can do a lot of this with PowerShell, especially the IP settings. IP settings, join it to the domain and all that. There's no reason why you should be doing this graphically. Okay, guys, while we're waiting for that to get installed, I'm going to show my PowerShell script for this is the PowerShell script to create one user account. You can pause this on the video. This is the PowerShell script to read a file into an array. This would be the user account name, first name, and last name. You need to work and get this to become one thing. You should be able to read a file of 50 user accounts and add them to your domain. I don't care which domain you add them to. This, guys, isn't needed. These are just comments. I was testing it to verify I read the array properly. I'm just going to delete that just so you see it. Okay, I'm going to go back to my web server. I'm just going to make some simple web content. Make dir inetpub my site. Create a directory called my site under the inetpub folder. When I installed the web server, it created this folder for me. So I want to copy con from my console to inetpub my site index.html. Just some what am I doing wrong? Oh, Powershell doesn't like this. So look, I'm just going to do something simpler. Echo something into inetpub my site index.html. Apparently Powershell doesn't like to copy copy. That's fine. Guys, there's a thing called add content, a PowerShell applet called add content. You can use that as well. So I just created some simple web content, an index.html file. Now I'm going to host that on a website. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is get a server from get a certificate from my website. Highlight the server, go to server certificates, and over here on the right, create a new domain certificate. The common name should be the name that you want your users to type in the URL. That name needs to be resolvable in DNS. Your domain, whatever you want to put here, it doesn't really matter what the, this will be the department that needs that certificate. Sales, whatever. No abbreviation for the city and state. Tells you right here. Incidentally, it will work for Microsoft one, no problem. I need to reboot. Okay? I just don't know about the CA yet. We're going to take another break. I created that GPO on the west side. This web server is on the east side. It doesn't know about it yet. So all I'm going to do is pause the video and wait. Okay. I created the group policy here. This web server joined the domain, and it's going to talk to these two DCs. So until that GPO that I created here gets replicated over to this DC or this DC, the web server is never going to get it. So I paused the video, gave it a few minutes to replicate. DC3 now has that GPO. So I'm just going to try to do a GP update and try to get the certificate again. GP update force. While I'm here, I'm going to show you another trick. I'm going to open up a command prompt. I'm sure there's a PowerShell equivalent to this command. I don't know what it is. I'm going to do echo %, log1 server, %. That's who I'm signing in against, DC4. I need to make sure that DC4 has a GPO. So I'm going to go to DC4. Because remember, it had to get replicated to 3 first, then to 4. My replication partner on 4 is 3. DC4 replicates to 3. Replicates from 3. DC3 replicates from 1 and 3. Excuse me. DC3 replicates from 1 and 4. DC1 replicates from 2, 3, 6, and 5. So I'm going to look at the GP, the group policy management. I have the certificate GPO there, so I'm going to try to now get my certificate again. So I'm going to create a domain certificate. This is the name they type in the URL field of the browser. The web department is requesting this certificate. Guys, I'm just going to reboot. Now it's not grayed out. So I have a certificate. Now I'm going to create a website. The site name is just for IIS. That's just going to be the name in this list. Has nothing to do with what they type in the URL. Physical path is C, inetpub, C, inetpub, my site. Inside of that folder, I have a document called index.html. It automatically knows to pass that document out. So you're not going to see index.html here. That's just the default name of the file. Again, I'm going to put the name they're going to type in the URL field here. I don't know if I need that, but choose my certificate. Click OK. The last thing I need to do is since I'm on the east side, I'm just going to do it to a server on the east side. I know I'm talking to this server, so I'm just going to go here and create a record in DNS. Sorry. I need to resolve www to an IP. So I'm going to go into DNS. Create an alias. www really points to CS01 www.contoso.com. So www.contoso.com is just another name for CS01-www.contoso.com. It's better to do an alias than create a new host record, because if that IP changes, I only have to change it once on the host record. I don't have to mess with any of the aliases. We had this before. Just redid it. Okay, go back to my web server, test it out. I'm going to open up a browser. www.contoso.com. HTTPS, rather. Let me unblock this. I'm going to make sure I can resolve the name. I can't resolve the name yet because I created it on 4 and it hasn't got replicated to 3. So just wait. Remember when I echoed the log1 server? Well, the first time I was talking to 4, now I'm talking to 3. I'm going to go to 3 and look at DNS. So I'm just waiting for that alias to get replicated. I'm going to try to force it. This never works out well. Guys, what I did was, I went to 3, said replicate from 4. By right-clicking, replicate now. It worked. So I'm going to try this again. Now I can resolve the name to an IP. And my site is secure. Okay, that's it for the test. I'm going to stop recording and upload it to YouTube.